Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of What's Wrong with This Insurance Estimate. Now, we did this the other day and we put up a video on our YouTube channel and had tremendous feedback, and I really appreciate that. And I thought to show my appreciation, I would do it again. And so please, if you haven't already, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're going to do more of these, and if you subscribe, you'll get notifications. And if you find that this video or any other video has value to you, please click the like button. I would love to hear your comments and any requests on anything else you'd like us to cover. Our channel is dedicated to helping insurance restoration contractors, empowering them with information that some may consider to be trade secrets. There's not really a lot of secrets that we use to do what we do. And so we're not so much as not necessarily teachers only, because we consider ourselves as students of the industry as well. And so every day we learn from people like you, and from reviewing estimates like this, and every day trying to learn more information to do what we do better. And so this is more just us sharing those experiences with you, hoping that you can get value, because we kind of feel like if we don't share, then we're kind of taking away from you guys. So here we go. This is an estimate that was written by USAA for one of our clients who's a contractor, but this was written for a homeowner for a hail damage project claim that took place in April of 2016 in the Dallas-Fort Worth market. So in April of 2016, there's a big hailstorm in that area, some baseball-sized hail. It was widespread, covered a lot of area, before moving very far into this estimate. And I just want to say, too, that we're going to show this estimate. We're also going to show the Xactimate estimate that we wrote and submitted to USAA, followed by, at the end of this video, we'll show you the final revised estimate that USAA changed their position to. Okay, so but the first problem I see is April 2016 price list. That's a problem. Like this contractor, the involvement when they were hired, I think it took place in July, maybe August, and so that April price list is incorrect. Now, for those of you who don't know, I'll just cover it quickly. Xactimate is used by over 90% of the insurance companies out there. So this one here is USAA. Sorry for the screen there. This one here is USAA. They use Xactimate nationwide, State Farm, Allstate, Liberty Mutual, Farmers, Safeco, ASI, AAA, Erie, Cincinnati, the Hartford, all these insurance companies use Xactimate. Xactimate is made by Xactware, and it is the industry standard for coming up with a price for just about everything in construction. And they use prices for individual markets. This was for the Dallas market, so the price for baseboard, for example, per linear foot will be different in Dallas than it is in Houston, and different in Houston than it will be in San Antonio, and so on and so forth. And it also updates every month. So the April 2016 price list is different from the May 2016 price list. So because there was a hailstorm, I happen to know that there were many contractors who are getting letters from their suppliers and subcontractors notifying them that there was going to be a price increase due to supply and demand problems. More hail damage needs more work, more supplies, more labor, all of those things. So you would expect that in May, because the date of loss was April the 12th, you would think that all the way in the end of April by May 1st, that Xactimate, the changes reflected in the May price list would be very different. I can tell you that it wasn't. I remember that very clearly. That was a major problem. There was an email sent out by the North Texas Roofing Contractors Association, so shout out to them, where they identified this problem, and they sent out an email to all their members encouraging them to send an email to Xactware to share some of the documentation they were getting from suppliers and subcontractors, hoping that they would take it seriously. And they did. So in June, there was a major change. it went up quite a bit. And so it caught up with the market, right? And so just by looking at this estimate, if the work hasn't been done yet, okay, and it's July or August right now, and it's not. It's October when we're making this video. But if it's July or August now, and we're doing the job, then that's the price that needs to be used because they have replacement cost value. So it has to be the current market value. It's not what the roof cost back when it was put on or what it cost in April. It's what it cost in July or August when it's actually done. So this is just a little thing that any homeowner could simply just pick up the phone, call their insurance company and say, hey, could you take my estimate and update it to the current price list? And I promise you, as long as the work hasn't been done, they shouldn't receive any resistance at all in that request. They should almost always receive nothing but, yeah, yes, ma'am, yes, sir, we'll do that for you right now. We'll send you a check. So it's very easy to do even without a contractor. So now I know that they're only supposed to pay for what's incurred. Okay, so I mean, they would have to have reason for needing to do that. They couldn't do that if they were going to get the job done for less, and so on and so forth. So that's a different subject for a different day. Okay, so you see here that, well, I will say too that on the summary page, summary for dwelling, that's the house, that's the structure. Okay, that's where the roof is, that's where the drywall is, that's the structure of the house. So you might see these summaries and be confused sometimes. Maybe you already know this. I apologize for those who already know this very basic information. But for those who don't, I'd like to take the opportunity to kind of describe, because this USAA estimate breaks it apart. Here's a frequently asked questions page. Breaks it apart into the different coverages. So the coverage here is contents. That's like personal property, clothing, electronics, also playground, patio furniture, grills, things of that nature. So contents is not something that would typically pertain to most contractors unless you're involved with contents pack out, inventory, cleaning, contents replacement. So it wouldn't pertain to you unless you're involved with those items. Frequently asked question page again. Another summary page for other structures. That's your fence. That's your playground, the playhouse, the shed, the swing set. That's other structures, right? And one thing to note on those, usually that is a non-replacement cost value item. So an ACV item, if you will. So they'll take the age of the fence, for example, if it needs pressure cleaned and stained, and based on that age, they'll depreciate it, and it's typically non-recoverable depreciation based on their policy. So watch for that, because I've seen a lot of times where you have a couple hundred linear feet of fence, you have to pressure clean and stain. The insurance company depreciates it by 40 to 50%, and you think that all that money is going to be available at the end. Little did you know that it's on the homeowner to come up with it out of pocket. If you didn't know that and they didn't know that, it's tough to make that case to them at the end after the work is all done. We have nothing but problems then, see? So look for brackets. If you see brackets, that means non-recoverable around the dollar amount. Another frequently asked questions page here. And then we have loss of use. Again, that's not going to apply to most contractors. It's maybe loss of utilities, power, maybe food, business claims. You see that in a lot of business claims. Okay, so now on to the roof. Now, I'm kind of torn on this because it's USAA. And if anybody ever asks me who the best insurance company is to get for homeowners insurance, without a doubt, I'm going to say USAA. So if you have any military connections whatsoever in your family, and if you don't have USAA, you need to switch because they're the best. I've seen them lean in the favor of their members more times than not. Have I ever seen a bad experience? Yes, of course, many. Have I ever seen an unprofessional USAA adjuster? Absolutely. Have I seen adjusters that didn't know what they were doing? Certainly. But not near as much as I see with all of the other outfits out there, who I won't name. So I will say, there's some lessons to be learned just from looking at this roofing estimate that the adjuster wrote before contractor involvement, because there's a lot of things that he did correct that you won't see on a State Farm or an Allstate estimate, okay? Like just yesterday, I heard about this independent adjuster. Shout out to Big J out there in Colorado if you're listening, buddy, for alerting me to this. But there's an independent adjuster, it might be, I don't know if he's independent, but he's an adjuster, insurance adjuster. And he was posting on social media yesterday about how he was really frustrated with a contractor, and he was tempted to post that contractor's name and information all over social media to alert the public that this contractor was using a 15% waste factor on the shingles, and he was removing and replacing the steep charge and removing and replacing the high charge, just rampant, right? I mean, look at this. This is USAA adjuster that wrote it on their own, okay? Nobody had to ask them to do it this way. If I can just get my selector correct here. The waste allowance is 15%. And if you look, it says remove steep charge, right? And replace steep charge with waste. So remove 28 and replace with waste. Remove high charge, right? Replace high charge with waste, okay? Nobody asked him to do it that way. And so are we going to post his information all over social media and embarrass him because he's doing it the wrong way? No, he's doing it the right way. And that adjuster who said that, he probably needs to go back to school, because I think what he's doing is he's brainwashed by the one carrier mindset. Maybe he worked for a carrier that never likes to pay for those things, incorrectly so, because they're supposed to be broken out. They're supposed to have waste on the replacement portions of those items. Many times you look at these estimates and you won't even see, you might see the steep charge and you're like, oh good, they got the steep charge, right? Because you see this additional charge, for steep roof. But unless you see the remove also, it's wrong. So they would be missing, if they don't have the removal, they'd be missing 263.20. If you look at the State Farm estimate, most of the time they won't even have the removal, nor will they have the waste for the replacement. So sometimes they will. If they do, it's correct. If it's not, it's not, right? So, I mean, here, another thing that you see that he actually did correct here is that he's got the R&R. So like if you see flashing, again, State Farm, if you see flashing pipe jack, on a State Farm estimate, 7 of those, right? You say, great, they got the 7 pipe jacks. No, they didn't. They're just telling you that they're agreeing to replace them, to pay for the replacement only. They're not going to pay you to remove the old ones, okay? It's a thing that may not seem like it makes that big of a difference, but nickels and dimes, right? And they say that, well, that's already included with the removal of the roof. I'll show you why it's not. I'll prove that in a second, but it's not included with the removals of the shingle. When the Xactimate says remove shingles, like up here, if you say remove and tear off the shingles, okay? This right here, that's for the shingles and the felt and the nails. It's not for anything else. It's not for the drip edge. It's not for the vents. It's not for the gutters. It's not for the decking. It's not for any of those things, right? And so, and one other thing to note, this one here, haul off, right? So if you have a dumpster and they say, why do you have a dumpster? Because it's already included with the removal of the roof. No, it's not. It's included with the removal of the shingles and the felt and the nails. It's not included for all these other items here. Okay, I think this guy knew that because he put a pickup truck in here, which I'll show you, but because he missed so many other items, the pickup truck's not going to cut it. But anyway, he did it right here. So if State Farm tells you that's wrong, no, it's not. Here's another estimate written by an adjuster without having to be asked, that was trained properly to do that correctly. Okay, so I mean, a lot of things this adjuster got right in his estimate, but the major problems was that he left off valley metal. He left off, let's see, drip edge. He didn't have any drip edge, didn't have any valley metal, didn't have any step flashing, didn't have any regular flashing, and I think a number of other items. So, I mean, just those items that I mentioned, do you know how much those items come up to? I mean, it's a lot of money. Oh, the other thing was that because of the steepness, there had to be a 30-pound felt, and there were some low slope areas too. And I think that was over $1,000 at the end of the day. So, I mean, there's thousands of dollars missing from this estimate. And of course, there's no overhead and profit. Now, if you look, it's just a roof, you wouldn't be likely to get overhead and profit on just a roof, but there are more items, but he didn't give overhead and profit. So lots of problems, right? Front elevation, gutters, glazing bead, couple things to note here. The gutters on this job were a color other than white, so they were supposed to include prime and paint as well, and they didn't here. The glazing bead vinyl, if you see that, just make sure that there's also a labor minimum for the window repair item that spits out at the end, and some insurance companies want to have those turned off. But if you use this item, the glazing bead, obviously $13.86 is not very much, right? So it's not worth, I mean, you have $18.48 over here. To get a window guy out and to do a couple windows, I realize as being a former contractor, it's very difficult to do, especially for the prices that they give you. Just a trip charge alone, to get somebody out there doesn't make it worthwhile. So that's why you should have the labor minimums in there. If they want to turn them off, make sure that they add labor hours to account for that. So like a minimum trip charge, 2 hours, 4 hours kind of thing to accommodate. And also, most of those guys don't want to go out there and replace that because of the liability of possibly breaking the window. I encourage videotaping the whole thing. So if it does break, you can submit that to the insurance company and deal with that separately. It's a whole different issue. Another lesson for that. So, all right, now comb and straighten the AC. Make sure that that has with trip charge, right? And he does have with trip charge in here. I think that you want. I think this one was supposed to be a large. I think we tried to get large and he didn't go with it. But spoiler alert there. We'll get to that in a few. Rear elevation, gutters, missing the paint. Other structures, he didn't have anything in there for the fence at all. And then haul away the debris. Pickup truck is what he has. So if you didn't have all those other items, that you're going to see that should have been in here, there would be less waste, but he should have had more. Okay, so there's the window labor minimum that I told you about. 110.83 there. So just make sure that that's enough to account for it. And then, all right, we'll get into the summary. So this estimate by USAA started out at 10795.14. Okay, so remember that number. We'll come back to that. And we wrote an estimate for our contractor that we submitted to USAA. And sorry for the redacted parts here. We made this the other day and had like black sections, and we're experimenting with new tools to white it out. We may try blur. So if you see big white splotches, missing sections, that's why. Here's an overhead and profit statement sort of beginning here. You may have heard that there's a special letter out there that will guarantee overhead and profit every single time, even if it's just a roof. That's not true. That's a myth. Okay? And at least in today's day and age, in 2016, if anyone knows of a letter that's guaranteed to work, send it to me. I'll give it a shot. But it doesn't work. There's no special letter. There's no magic formula. Especially, you know why? Because we look through the eyes of a general contractor. We're not a public adjuster. We're not an appraiser. Those guys have their place in this industry, right? I mean, those guys are needed in certain cases, and they would be able to push things through more than you and I could because they could talk about policy and different laws and legal, and in the contract is, the policy is the contract, and in the contract the premiums that are paid include this and that, right? So those things are all true, and they all have value. To learn about those subjects, I encourage you to learn about them so that you have background on them, right? But don't use them in your conversations with the homeowners. I say that because, you can't even give the image that you're acting as a public adjuster. And the way to really, and you're going to still, people are still going to say that you're doing that because they don't like to lose, right? But if you just stick with the facts of the estimate and only talk about what's in the estimate and when the items that are actually on the job and how that pertains to you and your role, then I think you can win more times than not. So don't get hung up on things you can't control. Overhead and profit's not going to be possible every time. But let me tell you, if you get yourself hung up on overhead and profit, you may miss 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 other thousands of dollars because you were so focused on the overhead and profit. So let's use the fundamentals of our whole game. Let's bring all the pieces forward in a full court press. Let's not miss anything from the estimate. Let's try to get the overhead and profit. But if we don't get it, where we end up is going to be in a much, much better place than where we started, okay? And I'll prove it to you. Overhead and profit. So now, the overhead and profit, the old way of doing things, there was a rule, an unwritten rule. It was never a law. Maybe there was rulings that set precedent in various courts, yes, but the old way of doing things was any 3 trades or more requires general contractors overhead and profit. Like, so roofing, siding, gutters, right? That's 3 trades or more. So that rule is no longer the case. If you think it is, and you're still, that you're about 5 years behind. Things have changed over the past 5, 6 years, and what's the new rule, you may ask? And for those of you more seasoned veterans, you've heard it. You might try the 3-trade rule with the insurance adjuster, and they say, "Oh no, that we don't care about how many trades." So how do I get overhead and profit? Well, they say the level of complexity and/or coordination required of a general contractor to carry out the project, has to meet. And so you say, well, where is that threshold? Like, where's the line that you cross that gets that to kick in? And they can't tell you. I mean, if you get them to, if you nail them down on anything, they might say something like, well, we think that you can do all this work at the same time. You can get in, get out one day kind of thing. Obviously, you can't do all this work in one day most of the time, right? We got gutter guys, got to get in, fabricate on site, got to work around the roofers, got to work around the painters and the pressure washers, and they have to dry and then come back, and all this we have to work around the customer schedule, right? So it is complex. It does require coordination. I don't get hung up on the other. I try to use their own rules to come back at them like, okay, I hear what you say, but look, it is complex. It does require coordination. So we include this little statement in the beginning here. We are a true general contractor. Is this the magic letter? No. This is just giving them as many facts as we can, right? So we are a true general contractor, and we have been tasked with performing all tasks in this project associated with several trades. This project requires the use of subcontractors for all of its tasks listed. We coordinate all these subcontractors and their tasks over the course of many weeks, planning and assessing included. It requires several trips made by many personnel. We finance the cost of this project, order materials, including special order, pick up materials, deliver materials, etc. And here's the big one, which I'll cover more in depth in a moment. There's also interior work involved with this project. The level of complexity and or coordination required of a general contractor, their words, right, to carry out this project definitely meets and exceeds any threshold necessary to obtain overhead and profit. It has been assessed to this estimate accordingly. Now, I do believe that there's another sort of unwritten rule that, and I am seeing resistance here lately with it, they're trying to move this too, is that if you have interior damage with the project, then it almost always kicks in the overhead and profit. It's like a trigger, okay? But now Safeco and Liberty Mutual, and there are others where they're going to resist, and they won't pay for it under any circumstances for the roof, right? So they'll give you the overhead and profit for all the other items, but not on the biggest ticket of the claim. And so now, will they? Sure. If you draw it out and press the issue, I'm sure that you can get them to do that. That's not what we do. We're more like we get it submitted, do the best we can, keep moving, get it closed out. We don't delay things for months at a time, right? So we're going to use other things to get the numbers up rather than to get hung up on any one thing. So, but I'll tell you, the interior work most of the time, even a water spot the size of your fist will usually trigger overhead and profit. And that's why you've got to be doing inspections to look at every room, closet, and hallway at the ceiling inside of every property that you ever inspect, along with the front, right, rear, left elevation, full fence, etc., okay? So there's the overhead and profit statement there in the beginning. And then, okay, so the roof. Remove ridge cap. That's a big one. With a 3-tab roof, you're never going to get it approved, but with a composition shingle roof, you probably, or laminated composition shingle roof, you can get it more times than not. And I could prove it by showing you estimates that were written by adjusters that had it in there already without having to be asked. So that's why we put it in there. Okay, now we put in a note underneath the removal of the shingles. We put in a footnote that this item does not include anything other than the removal of the shingles and felt. It does not include the removal of the ridge cap, starter strips, valley metal, drip edge vents, pipe jacks, or anything else. All other items must be accounted for separately. Also, any mention of the dump waste removal above does not apply to any other items on this job other than the shingles and felt. And this is only if the contractor is using their own equipment. This is why there's a dumpster item in the general conditions section of the estimate. Now, official exact word description for this item. This backs up what I've been telling you, okay? That you say, Mr. Adjuster, if you wouldn't mind clicking on the illustration for that item of the removal of the shingles and see what does Xactware say that it includes. And it will say, if he does look it up, it says that it includes the dump fees, hauling, disposal, and labor to remove composition shingles and felt. It does not say that it includes additional labors. It does not say that it includes, or layers. It does not say it includes pipe jacks and vents and drip edge and gutters and decking and drywall and fencing and all those other things. Okay, it does not say that. So it only includes the items for shingles and felt. Okay, so it's broken out. And also remove the steep charge. So you'll see on our estimates remove. And then in the middle, it's R&R for like the pipe jacks and those things. And then at the end, it's replace. There's methodology to that for many different reasons. One of the reasons is because, say, State Farm comes in and says, we don't pay for the removal of the drip edge. and you give them that little, illustration. You try to get them to see the light, and you can't get them to see the light. Maybe you can get them to see the light, and they still won't pay for it. Well, okay, take it away then. You can have it. Honestly, we're so reasonable. We don't want to give any trouble. We just want to, be reasonable and try to get on the same page. So for sure, I do believe that it's supposed to be in there. But hey, I just want to show some good faith as a courtesy. Please take it out of the estimate. We agree, right? I mean, so they've removed $74.60. So it's the smaller priced items in the beginning that I'm okay with giving them back, right? Take them. So then you might give them 6 or 7 items back right away, right off the top of the estimate, and then it looks like the adjuster, he feels like he got 6 or 7 wins, right? And then you keep the more expensive things for later and don't give them up as easily. But look, I mean, you shouldn't have to give them that, right? I mean, it's really supposed to be in the job. So, but you're going to have to do it. Is this negotiation? No, I don't think it is. I just think it's trying to get on the same page with the adjuster to come up with an agreed, scope and price that you can do the job for and that kind of thing. I don't think it's negotiation. I think you just need to stand on the merits of what's on the actual job. And I think the adjuster should too. Okay, so what's missing obviously is the valley metal, the drip edge, the counter flashing, the step flashing, the extra felt. These items down here, sort of in the end down here. I mean, these add up to a lot of money, right? So those items missing is a big deal. So for the item of the replacement of the shingles, we put a footnote underneath that says that this item does not include anything other than the installation of the shingles and felt. Does not include the installation of rich cap, star strip, valley metal, drip edge, vents, pipe jacks, or anything else. All other items must be accounted for separately. Okay? Exact word description for this item is laminated composition shingles, 15-pound roofing felt, roofing nails, installation labor. Doesn't say that includes anything else, right? So additional charge for steep with waste, additional charge for high with waste, ridge caps, the vent cover's out of place right there, and seal and paint the trim. Okay, so the ridge caps, they say, well, the ridge cap's already included with the roof. No, it's not. You telling me that 561.66 is included with the roof? No, it's not. And remember, USAA had it in there. They didn't think it was included with the roof either. Okay, so the front elevation, what was missing was the prime and paint the gutters because they were a color other than white. We got that in there. The glazing stayed the same. Glazing, we added we changed that to a large, which it was not successful. I'll just tell you now. And rear downspouts added the paint. Okay, look at this. I mean, this is why you got to do a detailed, complete, thorough inspection on each and every time you go out. I mean, I can't tell you how many hundreds of times I've been out to a property to look at damage or to talk with a client, prospective client, what have you, and there've been maybe even several adjusters that have been there before me, and they missed like all the items that you see in front of you here, like a whole bunch of things or a bunch of interior damage, which we also have here, which I'll show you. And maybe there was other contractors that have been there. Maybe there's up to 5 trying to win the job. And they've been through there and toured the whole thing and never saw any of these items because the homeowner or the commercial business owner didn't know about it. So if they saw them, they would know about it, right? They lived there, they did business there, and didn't know that they had these issues. But with more experienced eyes, like you guys can see this stuff. But you just need to take your time. You need to actually look for it. You need to go through every room, closet, hallway, and look at every ceiling. You need to look at every inch of every part of the elevation. Go through the attic, check out the attic and see what you can find in there. I mean, and all these things gives the impression to your client that you're a thorough individual, that you're detail oriented, that you really go above and beyond. You don't like to do, a half job. So here they missed the window, the screens, the clothes dryer vents, the overhead door and hardware. How do you miss a $1,500 garage door? In addition to the overhead door opener having to be detached and reset and having to paint everything, right? So an extra $2,500 of items that the adjuster missed. The fence, how did he miss the fence completely, right? So clean and pressure wash the fence, stain the fence, and also sanding for the very severe damaged fence. The pressure cleaning is not always going to bring it back. And notice that we have pressure cleaning heavy. There's like a regular heavy and very heavy item to use for the pressure cleaning. Sometimes that can make a big difference. Again, they won't always agree with it, but if it's heavy, you should put heavy. If it needs heavy work, you should put heavy. If it needs sanding, you should put it in there. He didn't give us a sanding here, I'll tell you that, but I can show you many others where they did. So you just have to get it in there. Okay, the bedroom. Look at this. So there's under 32 square foot of damage, right? So it's like size of a fist or just a little more than that, right? 8 by 4, one sheet of drywall is 32. Anytime you use up to 32, like less than 32 square feet of drywall, you can use this labor minimum charge for drywall. Look at that, 422.28. And there's also one without the labor. There's like with just for materials and things. So there's like labor and materials, and then labor only. Sorry, not just materials, but labor only. So there's one that's like 200 and something, and then there's this one that's 422. So this is under 32 square foot. So that's the item that you would use. So, but you have contents, move out, then reset. You have protect the floor, detach, reset the ceiling fan and light, smoke detector, detach, reset, AC register, mask and tape around the perimeter of the walls where it meets the ceiling. The labor minimum on the drywall repair, insulation, remove and replace. See, if you have a water spot and it's soaked through down below, imagine what the other side of it looks like. So are you just going to leave that there and kills it and spot paint it? Like, I'm a guy that shows up later and sees that it's already been bled through. It doesn't work. I mean, if you should not leave wet drywall just leave it closed up on the other side of it. You should replace the insulation, apply antimicrobial agent. It's like a high power Clorox. Textured drywall. If it's popcorn, the whole ceiling needs to be scraped. Period. It just does. That's part of the standards in the industry. So, but if it's not, you just that one section. And so you seal that area where you have the new drywall like a primer, and then you paint the whole ceiling, and then cleaning at the end per square foot. Okay, like all the dust and all that stuff that's there. Even though you're covering it's still going to be a mess, as you guys know. So general conditions, the dumpster for all debris other than shingles and felt. So before, I mentioned this earlier where they say, well, it already includes a dumpster. It's included with the roof. No, it's not. It also says that that's only if it's the contractor's using their own equipment, like a dump trailer. If you're contracting out with a dumpster, then that should be handled separately. And so maybe the roof does include haul away for the shingles portion, but nothing else. So whatever that nothing else is, all those additional items, how big of a dumpster do you need for that? And if it does already include it for just the shingles and felt, right, and you're contracting out a dumpster, so you would think of how big is a dumpster compared to a dump trailer. I mean, it could get really subjective. You can get very particular there, but usually don't have to. Now, if you have to have a permit on the job, even before you build it, I would submit it anyway and just leave it here with a zero price. So you're letting them know that, listen, we do need to have a permit on this job, but we'll submit it after, at the end of the job when we file for our depreciation. Okay, so that's the permit there. It says zero for now. There's all the labor minimums. So you see, if you have all the other items in the job, you come out with a lot more of them. Will they all be approved? Sometimes. Not always. So overhead and profit, what you see is that we have a total of 22,760.27, right? And they were at 10.7, so more than twice the amount. And so people could say, oh no, that's too much. Like I don't want you to submit that. That's too much. So if you didn't want me to submit that estimate, everything that I just showed you in this estimate, which items would you want me to take out? The answer is probably going to be none. Right, so I mean, I would just ask you, which items do you want me to take out? If you think it's too high, then which items do you want me to take out? Right. So anyway, there's that. We took that estimate and submitted it to USAA. Remember where we? Sorry, I don't want to make you dizzy from the scrolling here, but I just want to give you a recap real quick. So 22,760, and remember where USAA started, 10,795. So I'm glad that you would let me submit all of that, right? Because as you can see from the revised estimate back from USAA, the end result is that a lot more money was added. It's actually more than this 18,660 here. I'll show you at the very end once it's all calculated, but let's just go through it. Dwelling, frequently asked questions, other structures. Now we have something other than zero in the other structures. That's the fence. Frequently asked questions, a little breakdown there. What is the breakdown? Overhead and profit, something important, right? Right away we can see that they added overhead and profit. So that's positive. All right, and then we go on down. The roof, drip edge, look at that. We got drip edge in it. Excellent. Drip edge. All right, remove additional charge for steep. All that stays the same. Ridge caps. Okay, and then you see the last two items down here. He's added the flashing and the valley metal. Look at the additional money that's added for that. Big deal, right? And then we have counter apron flashing, step flashing, the extra felt, seal and paint. Look at all that additional money right there. Not bad, huh? With overhead and profit. So it pays to do your due diligence. It pays to follow all the fundamentals of your game, right? The interior work. It's a good thing somebody went through the inside of the house and checked it out, right? And found all these additional items. So just a water spot the size of a fist ended up getting all of this additional money here, this 586. Did he prove everything? No, but it's there. And that helped get the overhead and profit. Okay, front elevation, look at all these items, 1061. That we had it up for more than that, right? But he approved about half of it, right? But look, still, it's an extra $1,100 almost on items that should have been covered from the beginning. The comb and straighten glazing bead window screens were added on, should have been covered from the beginning. Prime and paint all the gutters, by the way, was added, should have been covered from the beginning. Reglaze the window, clothes dryer vent. These are all new items that were added on after our involvement. The dumpster, he didn't give us the 20 yards, but he gave us the 12 yards, which is different from the pickup truck load, right? Clean and pressure clean the fence, stain. Did he give us the sand and did he give us the heavy pressure clean? No, but he took it up. Those items weren't there to begin with. So now we go all the way down. Let's get a summary on this. Let's get a grand total, and there you have it. The proof is in the results. Right? So again, you thought maybe 22 was too high, but look where we ended up. Almost twice the amount. How did USAA, the best insurance company out there, how were they off by almost $9,000? How did that happen? Happens every day. Happens all the time. Now, I ask you, does Xactimate pay enough money? I think you can answer your own question there. I mean, the proof is in the results. And we're going to keep on doing more of these things, guys. So again, hey, listen, thanks so much for taking your time to go through and watch this, because I know if you did that, you did it because you wanted to learn something new. And because of that, I really hope that it provided you with value. And if it did, please let me know. I really appreciate your time. Please like this video. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're going to put out a lot more videos like this. And if you subscribe, you'll get notifications when they come out. Okay? So hope everyone is doing well. And I just encourage you to win more, learn your craft, put your best foot forward every time, with every job, every day. Thank you.